Welcome to the California Building Standards Commission rulemaking process, the second video in our online educational series designed to help you understand the Building Standards Code adoption process. This process results in the publication of the California Building Standards Code, which is Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations. We'll refer to it as Title 24 throughout this video. As we mentioned in our first video about California Building Standards Commission, Title 24 is published in its entirety every 3 years as a result of what is called the triennial code adoption cycle. An intervening code adoption cycle occurs between triennial cycles. It results in additions and amendments to the current edition of Title 24. Each cycle requires about 12 to 18 months to complete. So let's take a closer look at the rulemaking activities that occur during each code adoption cycle. Rulemaking is the process that state agencies use to develop and promulgate regulations. In general, lawmakers first set broad mandates by enacting statutes or laws, which the agencies then interpret, make specific, and implement by developing regulations or building standards. This is done through a process called rulemaking in order to achieve the objectives of those laws. Regulations are applied and used by the public and enforcement agencies to carry out the intent of statutes. The rulemaking process also includes the adoption of national standards into Title 24. There are 4 major players involved in the rulemaking process that results in the publication of Title 24. The first player is the Building Standards Commission, including the commissioners, staff, and the established code advisory committees. Second are the proposing and adopting state agencies. Third is the public. And fourth are national organizations that develop the model codes that are used as the foundation of Title 24. Player number 1 is the California Building Standards Commission. It has 3 parts, as detailed in our About CBSC video. 1. The actual commission is comprised of 10 governor-appointed commissioners and is chaired by the Secretary of the Government Operations Agency. They review, adopt, and approve content of Title 24. 2. A staff of 15 that is responsible for administering the rulemaking process and carrying out the day-to-day obligations of the Commission. And 3. CBSC's Code Advisory Committees, also known as CACs, that are made up of subject matter experts who advise on the technical aspects and the consequences of proposed building standards. Members of the 6 committees are appointed by the commissioners for their expertise and for a balance of interests. The 6 committees are Accessibility, Plumbing, Electrical, Mechanical, and Energy, Building, Fire, and Other, which is a catch-all category, Structural Design and Lateral Forces, Health Facilities, and Green Building. The second player is actually a group of players, the proposing and adopting state agencies that have authority in law to promulgate regulations. CBSC works closely with these state agencies as they participate in the rulemaking process. State proposing agencies include the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Division of the State Architect, among others. Each of these agencies has the authority to propose building standards and amendments for various parts of Title 24. For example, the Office of the State Fire Marshal proposes fire and panic safety building standards in the Building Code, the Fire Code, and other parts of Title 24. CBSC facilitates the code adoption process and also acts as a proposing agency to develop building standards for state buildings and universities, and for green building standards for non-residential buildings. Unlike proposing agencies, the state adopting agencies have the authority to develop and conduct their own public reviews and hearings, and to adopt their own proposed building standards. Their adoptions must be submitted to the Commission for approval and publication in Title 24. CBSC's authority to approve adoptions by state adopting agencies is limited to verifying that the adoption process was carried out in compliance with the requirement of state laws governing process and procedure. Adopting agencies include the California Energy Commission and the State Lands Commission. Player 3 is the public. Throughout the rulemaking process, members of the public are invited to participate in the development of building standards. Public participation helps shape the regulations and allows input from constituents, ensuring a transparent process. Activities that are open to the public, such as stakeholder workshops and focus groups, are announced or noticed on agency websites and via email to interested parties who subscribe to CBSC's and other agencies' mailing lists. Player 4 is a triad of national model code organizations. Because many of the California Building Standards codes are based on nationally developed model codes, the model code organizations play a key role in the code development process. These organizations create codes that are adopted and amended by states throughout the country. They are the International Code Council, the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials, and the National Fire Protection Association. So those are the players. Now let's discuss how they all play a part in the rulemaking process. To initiate a code adoption cycle, CBSC's Executive Director issues a written announcement to the proposing and adopting agencies 180 days before a triennial or intervening cycle is set to begin. The triennial code adoption cycle, as the name implies, occurs on a 3-year interval, and the primary purpose is to adopt the latest edition of the model codes and to make any necessary California amendments. Within a building standards adoption cycle, both model and California codes are subject to review, amendment, repeal, adoption, and publication. Each agency has the responsibility for its areas of authority, and its subject matter experts create draft regulations that will go through the rulemaking process before finally being presented to the Commission for approval. The agencies conduct pre-cycle stakeholder workshops or focus groups to seek early input from the public on draft regulations. After these workshops, the agency prepares the proposed building standards documents that make up the rulemaking file. Some of the key documents contained in a rulemaking file are a notice of proposed action announcing the intent of the regulation, the initial express terms presenting the actual proposed code text, an initial statement of reasons stating the rationale for developing the code, an economic and fiscal impact statement telling how the proposed regulations impact the economy and government operations, and a 9-point criteria analysis which assists the Commission and others in their evaluation of the code. These documents contain the actual proposed code language, the rationale behind the proposal, and the justification that the regulation is needed, is fiscally responsible, and meets specific statutory requirements. After the documents are created by the agency, they are then submitted to CBSC both electronically and in hard copy form. At this point, CBSC takes stewardship of the documents, reviewing them for compliance with building standards law, administrative regulations addressing rulemaking procedures, and the Administrative Procedures Act. If the files comply, they are then prepared for posting online and for Code Advisory Committee review. CBSC schedules CAC meetings for the committees to review and provide recommendations on proposed building standards. Note that these recommendations are advisory and not binding to the proposing state agencies. CAC meetings are open to the public and are another opportunity for the public to provide comments on how the proposed building standards might impact the regulated community. After the committee meetings, the proposing agency must consider and address any CAC recommendations. They then resubmit to CBSC the proposed building standards and supporting documents, which may have been revised in response to these suggestions. Because all proposed regulations must go through a minimum 45-day public comment period, CBSC establishes public comment periods and files the proposing agency's notices of proposed action with the Office of Administrative Law for inclusion in the California Notice Registry. Only then are the proposed standards officially presented to the public for feedback during a formal public comment period. CBSC makes the agency's documents available on our website so that the public and interested parties can again weigh in with their opinions, including expressing approval or disapproval of a proposed standard. If changes are made by an agency as a result of public input received, and the changes are substantive, an additional 45-day comment period will be held. If amendments are non-substantive and are sufficiently related to the proposed building standards, a smaller 15-day public comment period will occur. Remember, proposing agencies complete all this through CBSC's process, while adopting agencies do this on their own, outside of CBSC's direct purview. After all comment periods are complete, the state agencies submit to CBSC their final versions of the express terms and statement of reasons, including a summary of responses to comments and all other required documents. CBSC staff then compiles these documents for consideration before the Commission. Commission review takes place at a public meeting where the proposing and adopting agencies will present their proposed standards and request approval. The public will again have an opportunity at the Commission meeting to provide comments. The Commission may take one of 4 actions on the proposed building standards: approve, disapprove, approve as amended, or further study required. Additionally, an agency may withdraw a proposed building standard from consideration at any point in the process. Regulations that receive a majority approval vote are filed with the Secretary of State and become part of the next publication of Title 24. Be sure to watch our next video that will explain more about Title 24, the structure and content of the code books, and which state agencies are involved in its development and maintenance. If we've piqued your interest in this rulemaking process, we have a number of educational publications available on our website. The Guide for Creating Proposed Building Standards is intended for state agency staff involved in rulemaking. The Public Guide to the Building Standards Adoption Process provides an in-depth look at the rulemaking process and guidance for members of the public who want to participate. This publication includes a section titled How to Make a Compelling Comment. As always, we are here to help you understand more about the Commission and the rulemaking process. Please contact us so we can assist you with any additional questions. Thanks for joining us today.